feel like I look like a nightmare today, guys. Isn't it terrible, the thoughts that we have about ourselves? So I'm going to attempt to make a video today. I may end up not doing it. On the other side of that mountain is the place that I grew up. It's a place called Chestnut Hill. That's where the farm was, and that mountain is where we moved, on the other side of that mountain. So when I was 14-year-old, I had my first suicide attempt. I took an entire bottle of iron, because then I was on iron as well, for anemia. I took the whole bottle and I cut my wrists, both of them. That was after, from 9 to 14. So it took that many years for me to actually get the nerve to do it. Because my first suicidal thought was when I was 9 years old. We moved up to the mountain, and I lived a very, very sad existence in my home. When we moved up to the mountain, I didn't have the fields to roam around in, and also was getting older, so you begin to start thinking about things like your environment, and plus it seemed like the fighting got a lot worse up on the mountain between mom and dad. I don't know why. I guess because we didn't have our cousins around, mom's sister, and there wasn't other people around to keep you from doing things you wouldn't ordinarily do. Like, I don't know if this is making much sense, but I think my dad behaved worse because my aunt and uncle were not living there across the driveway. So anyway, I don't want to get into all the details. I'm trying to tell you guys my testimony. So when I was 14 years old and I attempted to commit suicide, I was put into a mental health facility, and I was glad I was put there, because it got me out of the environment that I was in. So I was going through counseling. I've been through a lot of counseling since then, but I was going through counseling, which was really good. I finally had the things I needed to live every day, like toothpaste and feminine hygiene products and that sort of thing. I was getting to eat things every day. Somebody's making a video. This is funny. That was really cute. I love it when people just live. So anyway. Oh, she shut something in the door. Oh, they shut something in their door. I tried to catch them, but anyway. That was what I was afraid of. I would lose my train of thought while I'm up here. Anyway, I want to fast forward. So I went through the outpatient services, and I couldn't go back home. I had to go live with someone. So anyway, fast forward from that to I was just depressed. I was suicidal, did not want to live. So what am I trying to get to? I guess I'm trying to take you guys to the point where I was 18 years old. Now, I'm 48. I'm about to turn 49. When I was 18 years old, everything came to a screeching halt because I got put in jail. And I'm going to show you pictures of that jail, okay? what brought all this to mind was this song that came up on my YouTube today, and I clicked on it, and I shared it on my community page. It's called Fear is a Liar, and it was actually done at a prison. And when I saw that, it brought it back to mind. And I think sometimes God wants us to revisit these things to remind us of where we came from. I don't want to be crying. I'm sorry. So when I saw these prisoners in this room, in this gym, I thought, maybe it's time to tell everybody where I came from. I know I'm bouncing around, but just hang with me. Anyway, I'm going to back up just a little bit. When I was 16 years old, I got pregnant with my first son. My mom wanted me to give him up for adoption. His parents wanted me to have an abortion. They were going to pay for it. I'm just going to go through this really quickly. So anyway, so his daddy and I decided we didn't want to get married or anything like that, but we decided to go ahead and do that because that was the option that was going to save the life of my son. So that's what we decided to do. And so a judge married us, actually on the very day when I found out that I was going to have a son. So the judge married us, and I ended up moving down to his parents' house and lived there. I had my son. We ended up getting an apartment of our own after a while, and I was having recurring dreams. I'll tell you guys about that sometime. I've been plagued with recurring dreams all my life. Well, I was then. I'm not now. Anyway, gosh, this sounds like I'm not making any sense at all. But so I had finally gotten off that mountain. His family was a nightmare. They made fun of me because I'm from the South. They were not from the South. They made fun of me. They made fun of my language. They made fun of my figure, which is one of the worst things they could have done because I was 16. When I had my son, I was 17. So my first husband and I had agreed that on my 18th birthday, we would get a divorce. It was strictly to get me out of my home environment, and so that I could be autonomous. I could, take care of my son. So anyway, while I was still 17, I ended up leaving because he was violent. He became violent. He wanted me to love him. I did not love him. Anyway, I left him, and I'm not going to get into all of that, but they ended up taking my son. It was through trickery. It wasn't because I had done anything wrong or anything like that. His mother wanted my son, and she and her husband found a way to get that done. So I'm not going to get into all that. I will make another video about that sometime. I try not to focus on these things, guys. I try to just live my life, but I feel like I need to tell my testimony. So anyway, the agreement that his mother and I had made was that I would go live in Gatlinburg with my friend who lived up there, and I can walk back and forth to work because I didn't have a car. So I moved in with my friend from high school. She was living up there, and they were party people, and I didn't know that. I really didn't know that about her because she wasn't like that in school, and that place was a party pad, and it really scared me because at the time I was not a partier, but I was gonna try to make this work. So anyway, She brought my son up there one time, but she never brought him back. And at that point, I lost my son. It just happened. It was like bing, bang, boom. It just happened. He was 10 months old. I knew this was going to be hard. This is very hard. Needless to say, I couldn't sleep at night. All I could do was cry, wanting my son. And I don't want to get into all that, how bad that was. If you can imagine, I'm not going to stop the video. If you can imagine having a son, having a child taken from you, like all the way up to that point, you have your child, you're taking care of your child, and then somebody steals your child. And that's basically what it was, because I was 17 and I had left. They made it like I had abandoned him, but I didn't abandon him. She and I had made an agreement, you know, for me to get up there to Gatlinburg and to get my job and to get my apartment. And she was going to bring him, like, you know, just keep bringing him up there. And then, you know, I was going to keep him. That was what she said, because she had been through a violent, his daddy had been violent to her, and she had left. And so she helped cook all this up. But I'm pretty sure it's because she had a plan. And I was young and I was naive and I didn't know what she was doing. So they were able to keep my son. And the police and everybody that I went to try to say, hey, I want to get my son, and they've got him and they won't give him back to me, they were saying, well, you can't get him, and because I mean, you don't even have a car, and he's better off where he is. And I'm saying, listen, they've got my son and I want my son, and if I go down there, they're not going to bring him out. So that was the situation, and they would not bring him out because I did go down there. But I'm not making my video about that. It was horrible. It was horrible. It was horrible. They were able to take him and my ex-father-in-law, because he was part of the police force in that county. And the police, they, you know, they were all talking to each other, and they took my son. They took him, okay? They took my child. And people think that just because people are the police or whatever, that they can't do something like that. It's not true. They took my child away from me, and I could not get him back. Even the lawyer that I went to, even the lawyer that I called to help me get my son, would not help me get my son because I was underage. So there you go. That's the short of it. They took him. And not only did they take him, they gave him to my ex-husband. Even though he was violent, he was hitting me. See this? He did that with a seatbelt buckle. I was telling you guys about that. So they took my son. At that point, I felt hopeless, and I dove into that drug scene. I began to do acid. And believe me, this is after day after day after day after day after day of being up there, putting in job applications, believing that she was going to bring him up there because she kept telling me she was going to. And secretly, behind the scenes, they're talking to lawyers and they were doing all this stuff. And they took him. And not only did they take him, they filled his head with so much BS that my son thought that I abandoned him, and I didn't abandon him. They took him from me. So, once again, I was pretty hopeless, and I dug into this, jumped into this drug scene and heavy metal and everything that these people were into. I just jumped right into it. My ex-husband was trying to use my son. I'm just going to tell you guys this. He was trying to use my son to get me to have sex with him, to get me to spend time with him, to get me to try to come back to him. He did everything he could, and I'm telling you this for a reason. I came on here to tell you guys about a different time period, but I'm just going to tell you about this because this leads up to it. He tried to run me down with his car because I got out of the car up there in Gatlinburg. He was trying to get me to have sex with him. I wouldn't. He told me he wasn't going to bring my son up there to see me anymore. And I got out of his car. I said, well, you know, you're going to do what you're going to do. He tried to hit me with his car. He tried to jam me in between the car and a guardrail. And I jumped across the guardrail. But his parents still supported him. They still supported him. So anyway, long story short, I was doing whatever I could. I cried all night long. I didn't want the people to see because, you know, at that point, I was in their group. I cried all night long. I cried myself to sleep. I laid in the floor and I cried over my son. All I wanted to do was hold him. That's all I wanted to do, and I felt so hopeless, and I had thoughts about killing them. I felt so helpless. But anyway, I did get a job up there, and I did get my own apartment, but it was too late. They took him. I got into that drug scene up there, and I got into some other things. And by the end of that year, I ended up in jail. In Memphis. Not up here, in Memphis. I'm not going to tell you guys what all took place to get me down there. I want to tell you, if you are familiar with that song, Welcome to the Jungle, that was where I was. Welcome to the jungle. We've got fun and games. We've got everything you want. How do we know the names? We're the people that you find, whatever you may need. That's where I was. I started selling acid. I started doing all kinds of stuff in Gatlinburg. I was reading a book on demonology. I felt so much darkness. I've never felt so much darkness in my life. I know about witchcraft, guys. I know about Satanism. I know about these things because I've been there. I went from being a kid who was bused to churches and living on a farm and being innocent, to losing my child and then not caring about my life at all. I did not care. So I ended up in that jail in Memphis. Now, if I had gone to jail around here, that would have been a safe place. But Memphis is not a safe place for an 18-year-old girl. At that time, I turned 18. We did end up divorcing on my 18th birthday. He had gotten a lawyer and all this. Every time he wanted to contact me, it was a ploy to try to get me back. So he did get a lawyer. And on my 18th birthday, I walked in that lawyer's office and signed the paper. I didn't make that happen. That happened. We had agreed on my 18th birthday we would get a divorce, and I didn't make it happen. It just happened. But anyway, after that, I had gone not long after, so I ended up in Memphis. I ended up seeing things I've never seen before in my life. Some really, really bad stuff. And I ended up possessed. I was possessed, guys. I didn't mean for this video to go this long because I don't want to get stuck in the mud. I want to tell you guys, when I was in jail, the first day I was in there, the first thing I did was somebody gave me a Bible. And they said, you're going to want to read this because there's nothing to do in here. And from the moment that I first started reading that Bible, God's presence showed up in my life. But simultaneously, as God's presence was showing up in my life, the demonic spirits were showing up too, and they did not want to let go of me. Now, I want to stop right there and say, I was bused back and forth to church as a child. And in those woods, down there across the other side of that mountain, when I was about, I want to say 6 or 7 years old, God came to me. He came to me, and He spent time with me. So I was familiar with Him. And when I was in Gatlinburg, there were people on the sidewalks that were witnessing to people. And because we were local, we kind of recognized them. We thought it was funny. We thought it was funny to, especially me. I ran around with a blue jean, cut off sleeves, with a bra under it. I didn't wear a shirt under it. I wore a bra. And I didn't care. I didn't care. And I would go up to these people and they would start witnessing to me about the Lord. And I would get right up in their face, crazy like. And I would say, I don't care about this stuff. I'm going to serve Satan and I'm going to go to hell. And there's going to be a great party there. And there's going to be a huge orgy and I'm going to be a part of it. And I would say this right to these people's faces. And God kept sending people to me like that to try to tell me about Him, to try to bring me to Himself. There were songs too. Striper. I didn't understand it all. But he took me to himself in that jail, and he began to teach me about himself. He did. Other people did not do it. He did, through his word. I had hoped that my testimony, I had hoped that the video about my testimony would be better than this. You know, I wish I could be like other people and plan things, make an outline and do all that stuff and make it make sense. But I can't. And the older I get, the worse this gets. Like my brain, everything is scrambled, you know. And it gets really difficult to communicate something. And I want to do it so much better. There's so many people out there that make videos that are so good, telling their testimonies. You know, I wish I could do that. I wish I could have it all in a straight line and have it perfect, but I can't. I just have to put it out there, you know. But I lived in that life. I remember the fear. I remember the fear of the evil. I remember in the concerts, the chanting to Satan. I remember it. I remember all that. I remember Alice in Chains. I'm the man in the box. I remember when that song came out. That was for me. I'm the man in the box. Because that's the way I felt. I was trapped. I was possessed. And I couldn't get out. And all I wanted was my son. That's all I wanted. And he was so far away. And also that song, Quicksand Jesus. Out. I'm so far away without you. That's the way I was. Quicksand Jesus, I'm so far away without you. I would listen to that song while we were driving to different burglaries. And I was like, I knew if I died, I was going to go to hell. And I knew that I couldn't get rid of the darkness inside of me unless I faced what I had done. I knew that I was going to be put in jail and possibly, sorry guys, I was possibly going to be put in prison. And I was facing prison. I had 7 years. I got a 7-year sentence. When me going to jail was the mercy of God. Because he knew I had to face that stuff. Because that darkness was trying to kill me. It was trying to kill me. And if I had died, I would have gone to hell. That was the scariest thing. Because I walked around day by day, spending the money that we were stealing. And never having a good feeling inside. All the good feelings were gone. There were no good feelings left. I knew I was on the other side of good. I knew I was on the bad side. I knew I was evil. And I knew what I had to face in order to be free. But I couldn't make myself turn myself in. So God did it for me. I faced a gun. I faced the police screaming, "Get on the ground, get on the ground." I could have been shot. If I had done what they said, I could have been shot. I got a 7-year sentence. They reduced it to 3. And they ran it at 30% because they do that here in Tennessee. But my sentence has lasted my entire life. Because with a felony conviction, You can't get a good job. Later on down the line, God helped me start a cleaning business. But it ruined my life. Like the song 18 in Life. That was another song that I kept listening to over and over again. Ricky was a young boy. He had a heart of stone. Worked 9 to 5, lived 9 to 5, worked his fingers to the bone. You guys can look up the rest of the words. That was my life. All of those songs, I can't listen to that music. I can't even listen to it. Because if I start listening to it, I start living it. People don't understand why I can't listen to secular music. I left it behind in 1992. Because I can't listen to that stuff. Because I start living it. It starts becoming my life. People don't understand how wrapped up the prophetic is in music. You just don't understand it. And I'm going to tell you something right now. Those songs that you're listening to, if you're listening to them, those are not songs from artists. Those are songs from demons. They're from demons. They want to drag you straight to the pit of hell if they can. They tried to do that to me. Anyway, I served my time. I even had to go back. I had to go to the penal farm. A year later, after I got out, I had to go back. And I had to serve the rest of that time. And then I had to do probation. And then I had to live with the stigma of being a convicted felon. But God gave me a husband. After I got back. And he gave me children. Now there's other stories that I'm going to tell you guys. Maybe it'll make more sense than this video. But God gave me a husband, and he gave me children, and he gave me a home, and he gave me himself, which was the most important thing he could have given me. He gave me himself, and he gave me a life, and he wiped that slate clean that I could not get clean of what I had done. He wiped it clean. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing in this world that can get rid of the sin. There's nothing that can get rid of the wrongdoing. There is nothing that can get rid of that awful feeling that you carry around with you when you're robbing and stealing and cheating and whatever else you might be doing. That first husband, the next year, committed suicide. He shot himself. He's gone. He's been gone. Did I get Brandon then, my first son? No, I didn't. There's a story behind that too. But my son hates me now. That's okay. God's going to take care of it. My story needs to be told. Not because I'm any different than anybody else. Not because my story is worse than anybody else's. But because if I don't tell it, I could leave out of here tomorrow before the end of this day. And I wouldn't have told it. And we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. I want to tell you guys my testimony, but it's hard to do. It's very hard to do. I can't keep my thoughts straight. And then I end up crying because there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of trauma there, guys. There's a lot of trauma. There's a reason why I have PTSD. There's a reason why I'm sitting here doing this over and over again when I talk about this stuff. There's a lot to it. But I want my boys to know that I know what it's like to be out there, to be homeless, to be living in a car or under a bridge, where I stayed in Gatlinburg, under a bridge, on a sewage pipe, or under a swimming pool. But I didn't care, and I was so lost. Jesus was a long memory away, and I thought I could never get back. I thought I could never get back to God. I thought I was going to go to hell. And at that point, I knew that hell was not the big party. When I said that to those people, I was trying to shock them. But I knew hell wasn't going to be a big party. When I was under that bridge at night, I knew hell was not going to be a big party. And I was scared to death. So guys, I'm going to stop this video now because it is 30 minutes. But I'm going to put it out there, and I hope that it makes a difference in someone's life. I hope that somebody that is carrying around that darkness, that can't get rid of it, that thinks they have to do whatever to try to get rid of it. You know, God can help you get rid of it. And you may have to face jail like I did, but jail was a mercy compared to what I was looking at other than that. The crack hotels, some of the things I saw, the filth, it could have been so much worse. So I just want to say to you, if you're out there, if you're on those streets, if you've got a sin debt weighing on you and wrongdoing, stealing, murdering even, and you can't get rid of it, there is someone who can, and his name is Jesus. And Jesus actually got pinned down to a cross with nails to pay your price, to pay your penalty. He paid it. Will you face consequences? Yeah, you could. But facing consequences with God is so much better than facing consequences with the devil. He thought he had me. He thought he was going to make me his whore. But God had other plans, and I'm so glad he did. I'm going to tell you guys some other things. And if my subscribers don't watch this, that's fine. But there are people out there that need to know that God can change your life. He can lift you up. He can raise you up. He can give you a wholesome life, one that doesn't have guilt attached to it. But you have to let him do it. You have to invite him in. And reading that Bible is the only lifeline that you have on this planet. This planet is going down. It is under the God of this world. And you know who I'm talking about. His plans are to take everybody that he can to hell. But you don't have to go there. God can keep you while you're here. If you need prayer, just put it in the comments. I'll